requires that anyone recording this meeting identify themselves and that I notify the public that this meeting is being recorded. Please be aware that an audio and visual recording of this meeting is being made and broadcasted by Boston City TV, which is a part of the City of Boston Office of Cable Communications. If there is anyone in the audience who is recording this meeting, please identify yourself now. Okay? Fine. Thanks. Okay. So I'm going to, before we get started with the primary portion of our agenda, I'm going to pass it over to Director Golden.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Earlier this month, the City of Boston truly lost a giant. Clarence Jeep Jones passed away at the beginning of February at the age of 86. We all here knew Jeep Jones as a former member of this board, serving for 32 years, from 1981 to 2013, including 24 years as chairman of this agency's board. Jeep was also a beloved and widely respected community leader. Mayor Walsh and I were privileged to join Jeep's family and friends at the 12th Baptist Church last week to celebrate his life. Jeep, who grew up in Roxbury, served the City of Boston in many capacities. He rose through the ranks of Mayor Kevin White's administration, leading the city's Youth Activities Commission, the YAC, and the Office of Human Rights, before being appointed the first African-American deputy mayor of the City of Boston. At that time, Jeep was the highest-ranking African-American in city government. Jeep Jones graduated from the Brandeis Vocational High School in Boston and went on to graduate from what was then Winston-Salem State College in North Carolina, where he was a four-year starter on the college's basketball team. He served as the team's captain and was later inducted into the school's Athletic Hall of Fame. After earning his bachelor's degree, Jeep Jones served in the United States Army during the end of the Korean War before returning to Boston, where he was employed as a teacher and also as a youth worker. In 2005, Northeastern University awarded Jeep an honorary Doctor of Public Service. Jeep and his wife, Wanda Hale Jones, married in 1983, and they were extensively involved with the 12th Baptist Church in Roxbury, where Jeep served as a member of the Board of Trustees and as a deacon. In addition to his wife, Wanda, Jeep leaves 3 daughters, 4 sons, a sister, Jacqueline, 15 grandchildren, and 4 great-grandchildren. On behalf of Jeep's friends at this agency, I extend our deepest sympathies to his entire family. During his 35 years in public and community service, Jeep made profound contributions to life in Boston. Of the many tributes, one of the most visible and one of the most visited and experienced in the city is the Clarence Jeep Jones Park in his own Roxbury neighborhood. I personally benefited, like so many here at City Hall, from Jeep's leadership as chairman of the Boston Redevelopment Authority's board during my first several years working here. And it was a privilege and an honor to call him my friend. Jeep was kind, he was humble, he was intelligent, he was passionate, and he had a terrific sense of humor. He was always smiling, no matter how tense things got, no matter how controversial things got in this very room, Jeep was always smiling, congenial, respectful, and kind. In some troubled years in the history of this city, Jeep fought for racial justice, and he made Boston a more peaceful and inclusive place for all. He made the city a much better place. Those who knew him and benefited from his work are certainly grateful for his life. Godspeed, Jeep Jones. Thank you very much.
If I might just add a comment, I also attended the service, and there were a number of very human aspects of Jeep that came out at that service. I think very few people knew that at the first NBA game that was held here in Boston in 1950, the NBA and Red Auerbach selected two young people, two basketball players who had played ball together in Roxbury to be the ball boys for that game. And those two individuals were Jeep Jones and Ray Flynn. Jeep was a person who for many years took young people from Roxbury to visit historically black colleges in the South. And the story is told that often in driving through the South, the young basketball players from Roxbury wanted to stop for a meal at a restaurant or Howard Johnson's, and he would just push on. And it wasn't until years later that those young people realized that they couldn't have stopped because the restaurants in those days were all segregated. And there weren't places for African Americans to get a meal. Jeep is revered throughout the community, and he was a great mentor to many of us because of his work with youth in the community, and he will be sorely missed.
Great. Thank you. We will now begin with the Economic Development and Industrial Corporation agenda. Item number 1, request authorization for the approval of minutes of the January 16th, 2020 meeting. A motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes. Item number 2, request authorization to enter into a 2-year license with the Boston Transportation Department for use of 5,386 square feet of space on the 6th floor, Suite 601 of 12 Channel Street within the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park. Maureen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Boston Transportation Department has been a tenant at 12 Channel Street since autumn of 2014, when the bridge to Long Island shelter failed, forcing the closure of the Boston Public Health Commission's Long Island Homeless Shelter. To address the critical shortage of beds and emergency indoor shelter, the City of Boston vacated and then renovated a city-owned building on Southampton Street that was previously used by the Boston Transportation Department. As a result, BTD had to secure a new facility for its sign shop, warehouse, and ancillary office space. The BPDA agreed to allow BTD to utilize vacant space on the first floor of 12 Channel Street free of charge. BTD currently occupies Suite 105, which is approximately 10,000 square feet. The suite is operational from a size perspective with direct loading dock access. However, the suite has no tenant improvements and is not air conditioned. In the spring of 2019, BTD received funding from the city in the amount of $198,340 in order to make improvements to the suite, which will include but are not limited to interior office renovations, HVAC installation, and the installation of sound control measures. Construction is scheduled to begin this month in February of 2020 and should be completed within 24 months. Inasmuch as BTD will still need to continue day-to-day operations to service the residents and visitors of the city during their construction, BPDA staff is recommending the BTD be permitted to temporarily use a recently vacated warehouse space of approximately 5,386 square feet on the 6th floor of 12 Channel Street for not more than 2 years. Due to the public service nature of this occupancy, no license fee is proposed.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion
Thank you.
passes. Thank you. Item number 3, request authorization to enter into a 2-year contract with ABM Industry Groups, LLC, doing business as ABM Parking Services for the parking management services for the 5 parking assets within the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park in an amount not to exceed $471,480, with 3 one-year options. If all 3 options are exercised, the amount will be up to $1,178,700. John.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, Secretary, Director, members of the board. First, may I say, in remembrance of Jeep Jones, as someone as the chairman that was during my first presentation in front of the board, and over the 100 times since that I've been up here, his presence was always welcomed, and my well wishes and prayers are with his family. The presentation I'm about to present to you will also relate to board item agenda number 12 on the BRA board, as they are combined here, so I'll just give this one presentation. A RFP was released for parking management services on October 28th. We had 6 respondents, and after a rigorous review from the selection committee, I am here to request your authorization to enter a parking management service contract with ABM Industry Groups. The EDIC contract will be in the amount of $480, and for a term of 2 years, with the BPDA holding 3 one-year options for a total of 5. The BRA contract will be in the amount of $249,204 with a term of 2 years with 3 one-year options for a total of 5, and thereby request your approval for ABM Parking Management Services to manage our parking lots.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion
you.
passes. Thank you. Item number 4, request authorization to advertise and issue a request for proposals for program evaluation services, including an initial study of outcomes and impacts of Boston Saves and the City of Boston's Children's Savings Account Program. Constance.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm Constance Martin, the Deputy Director of the Office of Financial Empowerment, which is part of the Office of Workforce Development, which is part of the BPDA. We also lead Boston Saves, which is the city's children's savings account. We have received funding and would like to issue an RFP for a 3-year evaluation of the program. As most of the people here know, we went citywide in September. This evaluation will help us ensure that we are meeting the needs of city families, and it will help us anticipate as the program grows to cover all the enrolled children in the city.
That's great. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 5, personnel. Jamie.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam Secretary, and Director Golden. I'm Jamie Lamarco, Talent Acquisition Manager. We have a few items for your consideration on the EDIC agenda. We have 5 appointments with the details listed in the board memo. Jing Chen, Senior Research Associate, Data Manager, Economist in the Research Department. Bethany Sirota, Deputy Director of Office of OWD Programs and Operations in the Office of Workforce Development. Courtney Kinney, Assistant Deputy Director of Case Management and Recruitment in the Youth Operations Unlimited Department. Whitney Hansley, Urban Designer 2, and Scott Slarsky, Senior Architect, Urban Designer in the Planning Department. We have 2 employment service contractors with the details listed in the board memo. Calpurnia Roberts in the Office of Workforce Development. Hugo Solis in the Office of the General Counsel. And 2 out-of-state travel items with the details listed in the board memo. Natalie Ponzak, Urban Designer 1 in the Urban Design Department, Kevin Liu, HR Specialist 2 in the HR Department, and 2 departures listed in the board memo, Leticia Paterlini, Lead Financial Coach, and Tim Davis, Housing Policy Manager, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes. Okay, I need a motion to adjourn the EDIC meeting.
I move we adjourn the EDIC meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Meeting adjourned. Okay. Moving along to the BPDA agenda. The Open Public Meeting Law requires that anyone recording this meeting identify themselves, and that I notify the public that this meeting is being recorded. Please be aware that an audio and visual recording of this meeting is being made and broadcasted by Boston City TV, which is a part of the City of Boston's Office of Cable Communications. If there is anyone in the audience who is recording this meeting, please identify yourself now, just by raising your hand. Thank you. Item number 1, request authorization for the approval of the minutes of the January 16th, 2020 meeting. A motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes. Item number 2, request authorization to advertise a public hearing for March 12th, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. or at a time and date to be determined by the director to consider the master plan for the planned development area number 124 Suffolk Downs and its 5 associated phase 1 through 5 development plans, and to consider the Suffolk Downs project in East Boston as a development impact project. I'm going to go ahead and read the second scheduling before we take a vote. Request authorization to advertise a public hearing for March 12, 2020 at 5:40 p.m. or at a time and date to be determined by the director to consider the 4th amendment to the planned development area number 67 Olmsted Green project, Mattapan. So a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes. Those are scheduled. And now we have the Board of Appeal. Jeffrey.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Secretary, members of the board, Director Golden. 57 petitions have been prepared by agency staff and transmitted to the Board of Appeal for the next 3 meetings, including tonight's subcommittee meeting over at ISD.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item number 5, informational update. The Boston Civic Design Commission Annual Report for 2019. Elizabeth.
Director Golden, Secretary Polhemus, Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Elizabeth Stiefel. I'm a senior architect and urban designer at the BPDA. I'm also the executive director of the Boston Civic Design Commission, and it's in that role that I'm here speaking with you today. The past few years have been very exciting for the BCDC. We have several new commissioners, a new chair. We have the longtime executive director, David Carlson, retired, and I was appointed. And we were also able to hire additional staff. When I started about a year ago, one of my goals was to work on our tracking and documentation of the work of the commission. And with the additional staff, we were also able to produce this year a annual report for the first time in a number of years, and we're very excited about this. I think you've all been given copies. It's also available on our BCDC website and was presented to the BCDC at their meeting last week. My favorite page is the highlight page, which is BCDC 2019 by the numbers, which kind of calls out some of the big numbers that the BCDC was involved with. One of the really great ones is this one, which shows 600 hours of donated time by the commissioners to the betterment of the public realm of the city of Boston. So thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you next year with our next report.
Awesome. Thank you. Does that conclude your presentation?
It does.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so That was just informational, so no vote required. Moving on to item number 6. Request authorization to execute an amendment to the lease agreement with Boston Waterboat Marina Incorporated to allow use of 250 feet of land and 96,625 square feet of water sheet on the north side of Long Wharf, located in the downtown waterfront Faneuil Hall urban renewal area for dockage and passenger loading for seaplanes. Dennis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Waterboat Marina has been a tenant on Long Wharf since approximately 1970. They provide short-term and long-term docking of pleasure vessels. They license 96,000 square feet of water sheet and about 250 square feet of land to operate this popular marina. In 2007, Waterboat Marina entered into a new 10-year license with Boston Planning and Development Agency that included 10-year option term, 10 one-year option terms beyond 2017. They're currently in their third option term with the 7 years remaining. Waterboat Marina has requested an amendment to the license to allow the utilization of a small portion of the marina for docking, passenger loading, and disembarkment of seaplanes. Cape Air has recently received all applicable approvals from state and federal harbor and aviation regulatory agencies to commence daily flights between Boston and New York City. Flights will take off and land in the water adjacent to Boston to Logan Airport. However, Cape Air needs a, my term, seaport accessible from land for which to operate. Waterboat Marina location is desirable because of its central location and direct access to the MBTA Blue Line. Along with the regulatory process, at BPDA's direction, Cape Air is undertaking a lengthy community process, including a public meeting in December at Long Wharf Marriott, which I and other BPDL staff personally attended to observe. BPDA staff has also had conversations with our counterparts in New York City to discuss their experience with seaplanes landing and taking off from the East River. As a result of the feedback received by BPDA from stakeholders and the Boston Police Harbor Patrol, we're recommending the following. Cape Air be permitted to operate from Waterboat Marina for a 1-year trial period. During the trial period, Cape Air will be the only carrier allowed to operate. Cape Air and Waterboat Marina will meet monthly with abutting users, commuter boat and ferry operators in particular, to discuss and address operational issues if any exist. There will be no overnight berthing of seaplanes, and there'll be no fueling of seaplanes at Waterboat Marina. Once a plane lands in Boston Harbor, the seaplanes are considered water vessels and must observe all maritime regulations for travel in the harbors, the same as any other vessel. Waterborne travel to and from Waterboat Marina will be subordinate to the scheduled commuter and ferry service which operates currently from Long Wharf. As a condition of the amendment to the license agreement, BPDA will receive 50% of all net revenue paid to Waterboat Marina. We're requesting permission to amend the license between BPDA and Waterboat Marina to allow for a 1-year trial use by Cape Air, subject to the conditions outlined earlier in this presentation.
Any questions from the board?
If refueling is not taking place there, where will that happen?
I don't know exactly where it will take place, but it will. They're working on those logistics now, but it will absolutely not be at the marina.
Okay. Any additional questions? Okay, hearing none, a motion is in order. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, item number 7. Request authorization to enter into a 10-year lease with Fenway Community Health Center Incorporated in the China Trade Center located at 2 Boylston Street. Lauren.
Director Golden, Madam Chairman, and members of the board. On July 11, 2019, the BPDA board authorized the director to enter into a 7-year lease with Fenway for the use of 4,000 square feet of space on the first floor and basement of 2 Boylston Street. Fenway Health, a federally qualified health center and research institution serving both the Fenway and Boston area neighborhoods has received funding from the Massachusetts Department of Public Health to establish an STD and STI screening center called the DASH Center. Recent due diligence by Fenway Health identified stormwater infiltration into the basement portion of the leased premises from Washington Street. Although Fenway Health had agreed in June 2019 to bear 100% of the cost to improve the interior space for their use, the stormwater infiltration is generated from outside of the building, and the responsibility for corrective measures lies with the BPDA as the owner of the building. The BPDA will not be providing any funds toward a tenant improvement allowance for interior build-out space. Further, Fenway Health will be taking the proposed interior premises in as-is condition. The BPDA will invest an estimated $500,000 in corrective measures outside of the building along Washington Street to arrest the infiltration of stormwater into the leased premises from the sidewalk of the building. The lease will commence on approximately April 1st, 2020, and rent will commence on approximately January 1st, 2021. Rent will start at $35 per square foot for the first floor space and $16.50 per square foot for the basement space. Both rates will increase annually by $1 per square foot for the term of the lease. As a result of the BPDA's financial investment discussed above to address water infiltration, Fenway Health has agreed to extend the lease term by an additional 3 years for a revised 10-year term. It is my recommendation that the BPDA enter into a 10-year lease agreement with Fenway for 4,045 square feet of space on the first and basement floors at 2 Boylston in accordance with the revised lease terms discussed above.
Okay, great, thank you. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, motion passes. Great job. Thanks, and at this time, we want to recognize Councilor Breeden here and invite you to speak and
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you for taking me out of order this afternoon. I'm the City Councillor for District 9, Ulster Brighton, and I'm here to support the proposal by Two Life Communities to develop the J.J. Carroll apartments on Chestnut Hill Ave in Brighton. This is a wonderful opportunity to expand the availability of affordable housing for our seniors in the neighbourhood, and it also offers the opportunity to develop a wonderful daycare facility for our elders in the community as well. So I'm here to give my unbridled support for the effort, and it's a great project, and I'm here to support it. Thank you.
Great.
Thank
you very much. Okay, moving on to item number 8. Request authorization to advertise and issue a request for proposals for the sale of 15 Mills Street in Roxbury for permanent parking. Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're requesting board approval to advertise and issue a request for proposals for 15 Mill Street in Roxbury. 15 Mill Street is a 3,000 square foot parcel on a narrow residential street. Since 1986, the BPDA has licensed this parcel to the Mill Street Cooperative for resident off-street parking. The current 2-year license agreement between the BPDA and the cooperative expires on May 31st, 2020. At a community meeting held in April 2019, neighbors expressed the desire for the parcel to remain off-street parking and not be considered for development. Therefore, we are requesting to advertise an RFP for permanent off-street parking for up to 10 vehicles. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, motion passes. Thank you, Morgan. Item number 9. Request authorization to execute a construction contract with ACK Marine and General Contracting LLC for the culvert and sinkhole repairs at the Charlestown Navy Yard, Pier 4, in an amount not to exceed $713,200. Lawrence.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. In July of 2018, a sinkhole appeared in the roadway at Flagship Way and depressions in the adjacent Shipyard Park. Upon investigation, it was determined that the bulkhead that was supporting the old culvert, drainage culvert for the dry dock, had been undermined and so forth. As part of that, we hired a consulting engineer who prepared the contract plans and specs to determine the best repair option. and all necessary permits were pulled by the Boston Conservation Commission, DEP, and Army Corps of Engineers. As part of Chapter 30 Designer Selection Law, lowest eligible responsible bidder was ACK Marine and General Contracting. Their background was checked. They have performed good work for the town of Chatham, City of Lynn, and the Nantucket Island Land Bank. And the design team, APAR, has also endorsed their contract award. This project is budgeted through fiscal 20 and will be funded by BPDA fiscal 20 operating budget. If you have any questions.
Great. Do we have any questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 10, request authorization to advertise and issue a request for qualifications for a licensed design consultant to provide design drawings and construction administration for the basement waterproofing at the China Trade Center.
As discussed in item 7 previously, the Fenway Health Center is moving into the China Trade Center. A problem with water infiltration was discovered. This is a request to advertise to hire a design consultant to prepare contract plans and specs to do necessary repairs to the water infiltration.
Okay. Great. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 11, request authorization to amend the contract for the janitorial cleaning and maintenance services at the China Trade Center to reflect AMPM Facility Services Corp.'s merger into its parent company, GDI Services Incorporated, and to increase the contract amount by $35,000. John.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, Secretary, members of the board. This is in regards to our conversations that we've been having with both the tenants in China Trade as well as the Boylston Block neighborhood group that surrounds our building. And right now we have once a month power washing. We feel the need should be increased to about once a week, and this is part of our further activation of Liberty Tree Plaza that we've put Public Works and Parks and ourselves have put a lot of money and effort into, and how to keep that up maintained.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item number 12, request authorization to enter into a 2-year contract with ABM Industry Groups, LLC, doing business as ABM Parking Services, for parking management services for 4 parking assets in the amount not to exceed $249,204, with 3 one-year options. If all 3 options are exercised, the amount will be up to $623,010.
Thank you. This was I was referring to in my first presentation, so without being repetitive, this will go for the BRA parcels,
Okay.
to award ABM.
Yep. Any questions on the board? Hearing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 13, request authorization to extend the design contract with Heartrand Lighting Design, LLC, for the Congress Street Bridge Lighting Project for an additional 12 months. Chris.
Great, thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the board, Executive Secretary Polhemus, Director Golden. On March 21st, 2017, the BPDA entered into a contract with Heart Ramp Lighting Design in the amount of $97,445 to develop a conceptual lighting plan for the Congress Street Bridge over the 4-Point Channel. To date, Heart Ramp and their sub-consultants, Jacobs Engineering, in coordination with the city's Department of Public Works, area stakeholders, and the community, have worked to complete a lighting plan. Unfortunately, there have been some unforeseen structural issues with the bridge and lighting design challenges that have delayed installation and procurement of the fixtures for the bridge lighting program. To complete the work, we are requesting an extension for 12 months. During that time, we'll look to finalize review and design plans with Public Works Street Lighting Division, also resolve attachments and pier lantern structural issues, and complete invitation for bid requirements for materials and installation. Installation should take anywhere from 4 to 6 months. I'd be happy to respond to any questions.
Okay. Questions from the board?
What's the expectation of when the actual lighting scheme will be fully installed?
We have to put out an invitation for bids for the actual equipment and an installation contractor. So once we meet with Public Works Street Lighting Division and the consultant, we've got a meeting scheduled for March 6th. So with that, we'll be finalizing the design plan and looking to get that out on the street for bids. So I would hope that, by the summer, early fall, we would have that lighting in place.
Okay. Any further questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 14, request authorization to extend a final designation of EBCDC Incorporated, the nonprofit corporation affiliated with the East Boston Community Development Corporation, for the lease and redevelopment of 146 through 172 Condor Street in East Boston. Dennis.
Excuse me. Thank you, Madam Chair. In October 2016, the BPDA Board awarded tentative designation status to the East Boston Community Development Corporation for the development of the 7-acre parcel located at 146 Condor Street in East Boston. The intent is to develop maritime industrial center consistent with the goals of the request for proposals that was issued, existing port regulations, and City of Boston zoning. Those collective regulations require that the site be developed for maritime industrial use only. The BPDA Board, since 2016, has graciously extended the tentative designation several times. In June of 2019, the Board awarded final designation to East Boston CDC, conditioned on meeting several milestones over the next few years. A reminder that the site has a 7-acre wide crater of about 17 feet that must be filled with clean fill brought in. Before they can do that, they have to raise the surrounding berm by 2 feet to get the entire site out of the floodplain. And before they can do that, they have to replace the decaying seawall. So there's a lot of pre-development work that needs to be done before they could even start marketing the site in earnest, and obviously before they could construct any buildings. Also remind you that the East Boston CDC Board did award, has committed $1 million towards this project, and the East Boston Savings Bank has provided a $20 million letter of interest. It's been a bit of a slog given the complexity of this, but we've never stopped moving forward on this project. The first condition milestone I spoke about earlier was securing a fully executed lease by February 29th, 2020. The lease has been drafted. Both sides have been reviewing it. The lawyers have been, revising it, but it won't be signed by February 29th. Although we're close. We're requesting a 90-day extension of the final designation to allow finalization of and execution of the lease. Once the lease is executed, that will allow East Boston CDC to access their financing and commence the extensive pre-development work.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 15, request authorization to issue a certificate of completion for the project located at 1486 Tremont Street to 1480 through 1486 Tremont Street, LLC, and to approve the transfer of the project to 1480 Tremont Street, Tremont Management, LLC, as trustee of the 1480 Tremont Realty Trust. Certificate of completion, so a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes. South Boston, item number 16. Request authorization to issue a certification of approval pursuant to Article E, Small Project Review of the Zoning Code for the construction of 34 home ownership units, including 6 IDP units, and 14 off-street parking spaces located at 6 Glover Court, and to recommend approval to the Board of Appeal for the necessary zoning relief and to take all related actions. John?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board, Director Golden, Madam Secretary. The proponent for 6 Glover Court LLC proposed to construct a 5-story residential development located on Glover Court and Reed Street in South Boston. The project site consists of 7 parcels that combined are approximately 10,735 square feet of land, which contain 1 and 2 family homes of no architectural significance that will be raised. The proposed project is within the Plan South Boston, Dorchester Ave Planning Initiative. So the density bonus guidelines increase the IDP fund contribution from 4 units to 6 affordable units. In addition, there is $190,000 committed in community benefits and mitigation funding. It'll be funding the implementation of the climate resiliency plan for Moakley Park, funding to support the implementation of the Dorchester Ave transportation plan, also funding towards public realm improvements on Dorchester Street. The proponent filed an Article 80 application on January 7th. A public meeting was held on January 23rd at the Chaney Learning Center, and the comment period concluded on February 7th, with significantly more support from the community than opposition. Both councilors, city councilors Ed Flynn and Michael Flaherty, are among those supporters. This proponent was very responsive to staff recommendations throughout the review process. And I would like to thank my colleagues Matt Martin, Mark McGonigal, Mary Canassis, and Charlotte Ong for their hard work on this proposed project. I would like to just briefly interrupt the presentation to allow Samantha Bennett from City Council Michael Flaherty's office to take a minute and speak here. Samantha?
Hi, members of the board. My name is Samantha Bennett, and I'm here to provide testimony in support of 6 Glover Court on behalf of City Councilor at Large Michael Flaherty. The proposed project will create a 34-unit residential development with a combination of market rate and affordable housing opportunities that balances both the needs of the current neighborhood with the goals outlined in the planned South Boston Dorchester Avenue Planning Initiative. More specifically, this development will bring 34 total condominium units to the neighborhood with 6 affordable units. This development will allow for new multifamily development in a neighborhood in close proximity to a variety of public transportation options, including the Andrew Square station and various bus routes. Lastly, and most importantly, this project has received wide support from the larger community. It received support from the Andrew Square Civic Association, alongside numerous personal letters of support from Andrew Square and Polish Triangle residents, Andrew Square businesses, and the larger South Boston community. This project will help bring much-needed vibrancy to the area and will further contribute to the efforts to revitalize the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, I would like to introduce architect Mark Sullivan to further the presentation. Mark.
Hello, my name is Mark Sullivan with Chu & Company Architects. The project that we're discussing is 6 Glover Court residential project. It's located on a through lot combining 4 parcels on Glover Court and 3 parcels on Lead Street. Just going to the next slide. Yep, okay. The project is located under a use zone 4 under the Dorchester Avenue plan. It is comprised of 34 units as previously discussed. There's 3 one-bedroom units and 31 two-bedroom units. The one-bedroom units range from 650 square feet to 667 square feet, and the two bedrooms range from 850 square feet to 1,225 square feet. This is a plan showing the 7 parcels in discussion, with Glover Court on the top, Lead Street on the bottom, and the proposed building footprint as it stands now. This is the ground floor plan. We do have a pedestrian entrance on the bottom there on Glover Court, as well as a secondary entrance off of Lead Street at the top. We also have a vehicular entrance off of Lead Street with a ramp down to subgrade parking. On this floor, we do have amenity space serving the residents, mail and packaging room, bike storage, as well as trash. This is an aerial view of the site, just to give you context of where we are looking at, the area highlighted is looking at Glover Court specifically, with Lead Street off of the back. Andrew Square Station on the red line is right to the top right of this image. It's approximately a 2-minute walk from the site in discussion. These are examples of residential buildings, multifamilies that are going around the site. Both of them are on Dorchester Ave and give us a little bit of sight and scale as to what we are developing here. The building on the top left is actually located directly across from the site as previously located. These are two more examples of mixed-use projects to give more context of the type of look and scale that we're going for. This is a front elevation of the proposed project. We use a combination of different materials as well as a push and pull of the physical facade to create a more scaled context of the building to fit more into the neighborhood. This is a view of Lead Street with the secondary pedestrian entrance as well as the vehicular entrance located on the right side. The left side of this elevation is what's actually visible from Lead Street. The right side is actually behind the current properties to the right of our property. This is a view of the left side elevation showing that on the top floor we actually pulled in the building to create the illusion of a 4-story building rather than a 5-story. This is the right side spanning from, on the left side, Glover Court, all the way to Lead Street on the right side. This is a view down Glover Court as it stands now, and this is a view with our current proposal on Glover Court. Same thing, a view on Lead Street as it stands now, and then this would be with our proposed project.
That concludes our presentation. We'd be happy to take any questions you might have.
Do we have any questions from the board? Okay, hearing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, I would like to introduce City Councilor Edward Flynn.
Okay.
Thank you to the BPDA board and to the director for giving me the opportunity to speak on the minor modification to the South Cove Urban Renewal Plan, Parcel 12. I just want to go on record. I sent a letter earlier, but I want to go on record in support of this project. There's been great cooperation between the BPDA, the development team, and the Chinatown community. This is going to be a great asset for the Chinatown community, especially a public library. First time we'll have a public library in Chinatown in 50 years, along with affordable housing, 100% affordable housing. So I just want to say thank you to the BPDA for their work, working closely with the Chinatown community and giving the residents the opportunity to have great housing in a great public library. I also want to thank the mayor's staff as well for supporting the Chinatown community. Thank you to the BPDA board, to Director Golden for giving me the opportunity to be here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 17. Request authorization to issue a certification of approval pursuant to Article 80E, small project review of the zoning code for the construction of 32 home ownership units, including 4 IDP units and 27 off-street parking spaces located at 100 to 110 Lincoln Street, to enter into a community benefit contribution agreement and to recommend approval to the Board of Appeal for the necessary zoning relief and to take all related actions. John.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board, Director Golden, Madam Secretary. The proponent, 100-110 Lincoln Street LLC, proposed to construct a 5-story residential building located in Brighton between Waverly Street and Litchfield Street. The project site consists of one parcel, approximately 13,382 square feet of land, which currently contains a 1-story building that was formerly used for light industrial purposes. The proposed project contains 32 home ownership units, including 4 IDP units. In addition, there is $50,000 committed in community benefits and mitigation funding for improvements to the Portsmouth Street Playground, located near this proposed project in Brighton, in funding for the Boston Transportation Department and City of Boston Public Works Department to support the implementation of the Alston-Brighton Mobility Study. The proponent filed an Article 80 application back on November 26th of last year. A public meeting was held on January 7th at the Brighton Marine Health Center in Brighton. The comment period concluded on January 24th with support from the Brighton Alston Improvement Association. This development team was also very responsive to staff recommendations throughout the review process. At this time, I would like to introduce Attorney John Polgini to further the presentation. John?
Thanks, John. Good afternoon, Director Golden, Secretary Palamas, Madam Chair. As John said, Attorney John Polgini on behalf of the development team. With me today is Arthur Chu from Chu Architecture, together with Greg McCarthy, who is the developer of this proposal. We're really excited to be here. This is basically replacing an underutilized commercial industrial site that's no longer in use. It was a shipping and trucking company, shipping and storage company, and transforming that into, as John stated, 32 residential condominium home ownership units. We went through a robust community process, meeting several times with the direct abutters, gaining their support. And it's a unique street because in addition to having commercial industrial, there's also some residential there as well, some bigger buildings as well as multifamily residential in there. It's 32 units with 27 parking spaces, and the zoning in this neighborhood is neighborhood shopping. And also we have a 2,100 square foot retail space on the first floor for street activation. I'm gonna walk the architect who was supposed to be here, had some emergency come up, so I'm tasked with the opportunity to do this for the first time. So I'll try to walk you guys through that. So obviously we have a front elevation right here. As John stated, so it's 32 condominium units. Of those, there'll be 4 IDP units, provide more than 50 construction jobs and $50,000 in community benefits. As you can see there, just a map of where the project is located. It's right near the New Balance facility. It's conveniently located a short walk to Boston Landing Commuter Rail Station, so it's perfect for residential. Another aerial photograph, you can see it highlighted in red. One more, it's the space with the 2 trucks that you can see doing the loading there. One more aerial. Again, this is the site plan. As John stated, it's about 13,000, a little under 13,400 square feet. First floor. Can't realize how bad it is to see that with the light like that. But I don't know how you guys do this. So it's a 5-story building. You see right there, that's the ground floor. And then on the next slide, every floor plate is the same. It is 8 units per floor. They're all 2-bedroom, 2 baths, approximately 900 square feet. You can see the neighborhood contextual. You can see that it is commercial industrial use. The use that was there is no longer. They have since moved on. So right now it is truly an underutilized space. You can see the stairs taking you over to Brighton Landing from the location. That is looking at the project. You can see next to the project is an auto body repair shop that has been there for several years, and we're in the background there. This is another photograph that is looking down toward Waverly Street, and Waverly is where the access to the garage entrance would be. We're looking at a front elevation on this one right here. We have a left side elevation, rear elevation, and a right side elevation. I'm here to answer any questions, as is Mr. Chu, who's the architect on this project. But again, thank you for having us here. We're excited to present this proposal.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the board?
Isn't this right near the other large cooperative housing project we just approved last month? Isn't it right down the street?
Ms. Downs, it's about a half mile. It's Lincoln
Half
Street,
mile,
but
okay.
Lincoln is quite lengthy.
Okay, I was just
So,
curious how close they were together.
I'd say about a half a mile.
Okay, great.
Where Lincoln Street intersects with Cambridge Street down near the Turnpike entrance.
Where the mural
North
is,
Harvard
yeah.
Street, the Beacon Yards,
Yep.
end of Lincoln Street.
Okay.
The Brighton expert, right there.
Great. Any further questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion
Thank you very much. Enjoy your night.
Congratulations. Thank you. Item number 18, request authorization to issue a scoping determination waiving further review pursuant to Article 80, Section 80B-5.3D of the zoning code for the construction of the JJC Carroll redevelopment consisting of 142 affordable rental units, a 7,000 square feet of common space, an 11,000 square foot program for all-inclusive care for elderly center, 1,000 square feet of commercial space, and 70 off-street parking spaces located at 130 Chestnut Hill Avenue, and to take all related actions. Lance.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Director Golden, Madam Secretary. Just to orient you, this is J.J. Carroll. This is Two Life Communities, formerly Jewish Community Housing. This is 132 Chestnut Hill Avenue. Cleveland Circle's this way. New Balance and GBH is heading that way towards Market Street. The project consists of 180,000 gross square feet of development, including a total of 142 older adult units, all of which will be deed restricted for affordable rental housing. The unit mix consists of 18 two-bedrooms and 124 one-bedrooms. One of the main features of this project is a program for all-inclusive care for elderly, technically called a PACE Center, measuring 11,000 square feet. There's also 1,000 square feet of commercial space, 70 parking spaces, 41 of which will be housed inside the building, and 29 utilizes surface spaces. BPDA staff recommends that the board take the following actions: authorize the director to issue a scoping determination waiving further review, issue a certification of compliance, execute and deliver a cooperation agreement and any and all other documents that deems appropriate and necessary in connection to the proposed project. Also recommending approval to Zoning Board of Appeal on petition BOA 1047724 for zoning relief necessary to construct the proposed project. Jonathan Evans, the project architect, will give a brief overview for the board. BHA staff and Two Life Community staff and representatives are here to answer any questions for the board members.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lance. Thank you for your time. Just to give a brief presentation, again, this is the J.J. Carroll development, 142 units, and again, 12,000 square feet of the PACE Center, as we talked about, and the commercial space. Again, we're excited about this product as a way to sort of create a model of housing that actually helps older adults live in community and extend their lives. So the project features a robust public open space, about 15,000 square feet, right along Chestnut Hill Avenue, as a way to bring people into the project, creating a welcoming public amenity for residents of the facility as well as the neighborhood as a whole. We had a robust community process. This was as part of our initial kind of massing diagram that we went out with. Through feedback from the community and others, we've actually reduced the massing closer to the abutting houses, as well as broken up the massing a little bit as well to create better sightlines through the project, and sort of more intentionally oriented the building towards the street, towards Chestnut Hill Avenue, to enhance the street presence of the project. Again, we're really excited again about the 15,000 square feet open space along Chestnut Hill Avenue, including an intergenerational play space, an opportunity for seniors, for neighborhood kids to come together and play. There's also a variety of different types of open space that, both active and passive open space. This project also, again, entails the demolition of the existing J.J. Carroll properties, discontinuance of Ledgermere Road, and creating a new driveway for access to the 29 surface spots that Lance just mentioned and the garage behind. Again, so what you're seeing here is as the entrance to the property off of Chestnut Hill Avenue. Again, trying to create a warm, welcoming presence along the street front there with sort of a combined lobby zone for the health center, the pay space, as well as for the residential building as well. This is a view looking at looking north along Chestnut Hill Avenue. Again, what you see on the left side, the right-hand side, excuse me, is 132 Chestnut Hill Avenue. And again, we're trying to sort of create this sort of massing that is consistent with that and respects the street scale, but again, also allowing a very sort of welcoming and robust public space at the foreground of that. And again, this is the view backwards, facing south. Again, respecting the scale of the houses nearby, stepping it back away from the property line as best we can, so that this really feels like it's part of the neighborhood and respects the context. Again, I touched on this a little bit earlier, but just the sort of variety of open space programming we're providing. One thing that I want to note as well is the current Dirty Herald houses are about 5 feet off of elevated off Chestnut Hill Avenue. As part of this project, we're actually lowering the grade considerably along the street front to make it feel more welcoming to access that open space. Quickly, in terms of the ground floor, we have the PACE Center, the health center in blue. This yellow is a sort of community program, amenity space for the residents. And again, that open space along the front along Chestnut Hill Avenue. What you see here at the 132 Chestnut Hill Avenue, that recently constructed building. Again, looking at the overall street presence, again, looking at warm, robust materials along the ground plane, brick, terracotta, things like that, at creating a nice kind of texture and warmth at a human scale, and these neighborhood blocks for the residences above. And this is the view from the north, similar idea. And again, I think this might be the last image, but again, we're really excited about creating this sort of warm, welcoming public open space. So that really this project is about creating the housing, but also creating this public amenity for the neighborhood. And yeah, I think that's it. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Does that conclude your presentation?
Yes.
Okay, great. Do we have any questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion is in order. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good project. All right. Item number 20. Request authorization to issue a certification of approval pursuant to Article 80E, Small Project Review of the Zoning Code for the construction of 30 income-restricted senior rental units, 1,500 square feet of interior common space, and 12 on-site parking spaces located at 150, am I doing something wrong?
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I think, was there an item before this, 19?
It's item 19.
Oh, yes, 19.
Sorry.
Sorry. Okay.
Thank you.
Item number 19. Request authorization to issue a scoping determination waiving further review pursuant to Article 80, Section 80B-5.3D of the Zoning Code for the construction of 62 affordable rental units, including 8 homeless units, and 12 condominium units, including 8 affordable units, and 2,500 square foot space for the Haley House Bakery, Cafe, Retail, and Artists Work Studios, and 31 off-street parking spaces located at 2147 Washington Street, and to take all related actions. Lance.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Director Golden, Madam Secretary. Just for the record, I got a letter of support from Councilor Michael Flaherty's office and a letter from the community, just for the record. So the project site is located in Nubian Square, right here at 2147. Melnia Cass is heading this way, and Nubian Square bus station is right here, Central Boston Elders, Washington Street. The project consists of 99,602 gross square feet of development, including 74 units, approximately 2,500 square feet of new cafe restaurant space for the Haley House Bakery Cafe. The program includes individual artists' work studios, shared workspace, a common public yard. Of the 74 units, 62 will be affordable. There's 62 affordable rental units and then 12 for sale condos. The unit mix consists of 8 studios, 32 one-bedrooms, 29 two-bedrooms, and 5 three-bedrooms with 31 off-street parking spaces located in the garage. BPDA staff recommends that board take the following action, that the authorized director to issue a scope and determination waiving further review, issue a certification of compliance, execute and deliver a cooperation agreement and any and all other agreements. Greg Minette, the project architect, will make a brief overview. There are representatives from the development team as well here to answer any questions for the board members. Greg?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lance, members of the board. Just going to run through a brief design presentation. So you'll see on the map, Washington Street, our building is in red. That forms an L shape that wraps around the existing Haley House, which is also a part of the project. Nubian Square, as Lance mentioned, a lot of development activity around us, and we're fitting into an existing context. I can just flip through these, okay. So you'll see the overview. We're surrounded by mid-rise buildings of 3- and 4-story buildings that are of different character, stone, masonry, mostly. We have 74 total units, a range of studios, and also 1s and 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms. This is a perspective from Washington Street. It's a 6-story building. There's 1-story underground parking. So what you see here is we're filling in a very important stretch of Washington Street with a new cafe for Haley House and also neighborhood retail. And then we'll have the 5 stories of residential above that. On the ground floor, you'll see that we're keeping the existing Haley House. They will continue to run their wholesale and test kitchen operations here. And we're providing a new cafe for them on Washington Street. We'll be providing neighborhood retail space, an entrance off of Washington Street for the residential. We're also providing, making a significant urban gesture by having a portal between the cafe and the retail space that enters into a courtyard that will activate the new cafe space, and also will be activated by artist space that we are, shared artist space that we're locating at the rear of the site. And below this, we will have 31 parking spaces that are accessed off Washington Street, down this Paper Street, Gare Street, and there will be an access off of that. This is a view of the inner courtyard that's activated by the shared maker space for artists and also by the Haley House. This is an elevation off of Washington Street. And a site plan showing the extent to which we're developing the property to the rear property line here, and then the existing parking behind that will remain and available for Haley House customers as well. And the scenario of the building with the materials that we're using, it's a combination of brick and metal that wraps around the building. And we're taking cues from a lot of the context. The masonry of the bowling building has inspired the use of brick on our building. And we're also using metal panel for a modern aesthetic to the project.
Thank you. Does that conclude your presentation? Okay. Any questions from the board? Okay, hearing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll go to 20. Request authorization to issue a certification of approval pursuant to Article 80E Small Project Review of the Zoning Code for the construction of 30 income-restricted senior rental units 1,500 square feet of interior common space, and 12 on-site parking spaces located at 150 River Street, and to recommend approval to the Board of Appeal for the necessary zoning relief, subject to the BPDA design review, and to take all related actions. Stephen.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam Secretary, and Director Golden. My name is Stephen Harvey, Project Manager for the BPDA, and I'm here in lieu of Ebony DeRosa, the BPDA Project Manager for this project. The proposed development before you is 150 River Street in Mattapan, which is a result of a comprehensive planning study for the Mattapan neighborhood. The planning study is currently underway, but goals that we hope to carry through are: 1, support inclusive, equitable development with an emphasis on affordable housing opportunities. 2, enhance opportunities for businesses to thrive with a focus on capturing wealth within the community. 3, strengthen connectivity through all modes with Mattapan and to the city. And 4, celebrate Mattapan's culture, identity, and see it reflected in spaces where people gather. Throughout the planning initiative, we have heard from the community the need to add affordable senior housing to support Mattapan's growing senior community. 150 River Street contributes directly to those goals, and subsequently the goals of Plan Mattapan. Additionally, the proposed development will provide open space amenities as well as maintains a large portion for the existing tree canopy, which is a goal of not only this initiative, but others throughout the city. The proponent engaged in an extensive community-driven process, utilizing neighborhood feedback to refine the development program and create an economically diverse new residential community that meets the needs and desires expressed by neighborhood residents. The Planning Office for the Urban Affairs and Caribbean Integration Community Development proposed to construct a 3-story, approximately 29,320 square foot income restricted senior housing development. The project will contain 30 income restricted rental units, ground floor community space, 12 on-site parking spaces, and a community accessible shade garden. The small project review application was submitted on September 27, 2019. One public meeting was held on January 8, 2020, and the comment period closed on October 28, 2019. At this time, I will turn this over to the development team to go over their presentation in more detail, after which we would be more than happy to take questions from the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.
Great, thank you. My name is Bill Grogan, and I'm the president of the Planning Office for Urban Affairs, and I'm here with our co-developer, Donald Alexis, from the Caribbean Integration Community Development. We're excited to be here today, and we're grateful for having been designated developers of this important parcel by the City of Boston. And as was mentioned, this really is an outgrowth of the community and our design work and efforts to develop this proposal is in response to community goals and objectives and in furtherance of the city's efforts to reutilize vacant parcels and really reactivate a vacant site. And there'll be significant opportunities and benefits that are brought through this development, including expanding rental affordable housing opportunities, maximizing public open space and community space for the community that has been through extensive community process, creating economic opportunity, and providing transportation choice for residents. So we're excited to be here, and with that, I'll turn it over to our architect, Jonathan Garland, to walk through the plans. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. I'm Jonathan Garland with J. Garland Enterprises. And here is a quick project locus map of the project. We're in this portion right here. It's a red sort of oddly shaped parcel, and there's the Senior Foley Residence Building, and here's River Street, just for orientation. These are a few quick existing conditions photographs of the site today. There is a fieldstone wall here, roughly 30 inches in height, that runs along the front of the site, and it's a well-open space. It gets a lot of natural sunlight. There's heavy vegetation in the back, and then the Ponset River actually runs in the back further down the slope. And so we're able to use most of the site for open space along the front, and then the building will be a little further back as the site opens up. Here's a shot sort of standing at the crest of the gentle slope coming up from what's now called Bradford Road. Here's River Street. Bradford Road is here. And so this would still maintain as our vehicular access in and out of the site. And here's a shot sort of standing in the middle, just looking at the wooded area beyond. And here's our site plan. Again, River Street is here. We have some direct abutters here along River Street and back in here. So we're proposing an L-shaped building, 30 units of senior affordable, 100% income restricted. It's a 3-story building, approximately 30,000 square feet in total, with 12 parking spaces. And you can see there's a number of parking spaces in parallel fashion here, as well as head-in parking here. And the red sort of shows our vehicular access diagram. So we're proposing a very safe and convenient drop-off circle for the seniors. So whether it's visitors coming or they're being dropped off or just parking, they'll have a very convenient way of exiting the car on the passenger side of the door, coming in the main entrance and flowing back out. We've also had a very robust dialogue with the abutters, not just members of the community, all of which are important, but we got direct feedback from those that are right next door to us on numerous occasions. So the site plan has truly been collaborative. And so one of the things that we're happy to talk about is this community garden space that will be designated for open space, not just for the seniors, but also for the community to do a gardening plot. So we wanted to really stitch this into the neighborhood, not just have it there, but have it be a social mechanism to create a nice vibe there with the neighbors. Here's more of a zoom in of the building. We're showing the main entrance here. That would be fronted and greeted by a living room space for the seniors to gather, a mail package room, laundry room. Those are the kinds of functions that create civic space for them. A community room here, which could be open to the public nights, weekends, and however it can get scheduled. And then we would have some residential units at the first floor, and the balance of units are at levels 2 and 3. Our program is currently 1 beds and studios, 27 ones and 3 studios across the project. These are some elevations of the exterior of the building. So we're looking at traditional gable end forms. That was one of the design comments that we heard from the neighborhood, was trying to look at the architectural character in the neighborhood and responding to it. So that's what we're proposing here, with punched windows and a vertical board and batten siding that changes color tone as you go up. So there'd be more of a whiter reflective siding here, and then more of a gray here. And then at the entry, just warming it up with a wood look siding right at the entrance. These are elevations along the left side and the rear. And here's a perspective view, sort of coming right past River Street, so you can see the entry drive here in the foreground, the residential entry here, and how we're sculpting the 3-story massing. And that's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, so any questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes. Thank you. Great project. Okay. Item number 21. Request authorization to issue a preliminary adequacy determination waiving further review of Article 80, Section 80B-5.3D of the zoning code for the construction of 145 residential housing units, including 21 IDP units, 3,200 square feet of retail space, 2,155 square feet of artist workspace, 61 off-street parking spaces, and 145 bicycle storage spaces located at 283 through 308 Brummond Street, to recommend approval for the Board of Appeal and for necessary zoning relief, and to take all related actions. Roll.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Director Golden, Madam Secretary, members of the board. As mentioned, the item before you this evening is the proposed 282-308 Bremen Street project in East Boston, located directly across the street from the Bremen Street Park and MBTA Airport Blue Line Station at the corner of Brooks and Bremen Street. The proponent seeks to redevelop approximately 34,000 square feet of land, which is currently occupied by 2 auto repair shops and a residential building, and as mentioned moments ago, construct a 4 to 5 story mixed-use building with up to 145 residential rental units, which will include 21 IDP units, up to 61 off-street parking spaces, approximately 3,200 square feet of commercial space, and artist work share space. In terms of the Article 80 review, this particular project went through a robust process. On March 21st, 2019, the proponent submitted a letter of intent, which triggered the creation of a 13-member impact advisory group. The formal process began on May 8th, 2019, when the proponent submitted a project notification form. Following the submission of this document, the associated public comment period, and a series of meetings, the BPDA issued a scope and determination to the proponent. In response to the scope and determination, the proponent filed the draft project impact report with the revised version of the project, which also triggered another public comment period and another series of public meetings. During and after the submission of these documents, the BPDA held a total of 5 public and impact advisory group meetings to review and discuss the proposed project with the community at large and members of the IAG. Through these conversations with the impact advisory group and the general public, a significant mitigation and public benefits package was compiled, which is spelled out in the board memo, and includes public realm improvements, additional affordable units in the project, and contributions to support various causes and initiatives. In addition to the BPDA-sponsored meetings, the proponent also conducted extensive community outreach efforts and engaged in a series of meetings with abutters, the local elected officials, Eagle Hill Civic Association, and Maverick Central Neighborhood Association to solicit further input on the proposed project. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Joe Hanley, counsel for the project proponent, to introduce the team and further the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Raul. Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Director Golden, Madam Secretary, Attorney Joe Hanley, McDermott, Quilton, Miller. Just to introduce you to our development team, give you a brief overview, and then ask our architect to take you through the presentation. Eric Robinson is from Rohde Architects and has worked on the design and architecture. Brian Lee is from Transom Real Estate, which is a local Boston-based development firm that's done work in other parts of the city and with this board as well. We are pleased and honored to be here, as Raul said, after working extensively through a very productive community and public review process, which has resulted in a lot of additional and responsive measures, an overall program that's very community focused at a location that is right at transit and at a vast amount of open space along a park. In that process, I'd just like to thank the folks that worked with us on the IAG. We had a number of meetings with them, and their input is reflected in this. The elected delegation, Councilor Edwards in particular, and of course, Raul and the senior staff for the BPDA, also in an area that is being planned and studied, and that was a big factor here. So for a general overview, what you're going to see is a new residential development that exceeds the IDP requirements, both in terms of the number of affordable income restricted units, but also reaching down into lower AMIs to spread across the community, invests in new public realm connectivity and street activation, and also will bring some neighborhood serving retail and an innovative artist community-based space and worker space and artist live units. So not your typical project, but one that, again, is the result of a lot of work and responsive to the community. So I'd like to ask Eric to take you through the presentation with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. I'll try to push through quickly. Just to make sure everybody understands the location of the site, so we are on the Bremen Street Community Park, adjacent to the airport T station, the new library, so we're anchoring this part of the site here. Zooming in a little bit closer into the site, you realize it's a very long site, 425 feet long, actually, along a much larger park, but it also is anchoring the portal into a smaller scale community neighborhood of Chelsea Street and beyond. So the project really needed to respect the neighborhood that it's abutting to the rear, reinforce the community park and all the great things that are happening there, and then also think about how that park is anchored by the new library by Bill Ron and some other architectural statements. So a lot of pressures on this site, and not a site that is traditional in this neighborhood, much larger obviously. So, and then also I think a little bit of the history of the site. There's an auto body shop there, so in some eyes it's sort of underutilized for where it might be, but when we started to learn about the history of the site and the family that has run the site for many years and what their impact is on the neighborhood, it sort of added another layer of, we got to think about this really hard and make sure it works well. So some images of the site as it currently sits. Top left is the corner of Brooks and Bremen Street, the airport T station's to our right. And then as we move up the street looking toward the next intersection, we don't quite get there, and there's a little bit of a site plan as you can see here. This is the edge of our site here. So, you know, we really do have quite a bit of frontage on the park, not that much frontage on Brooks in terms of the return street. So architecturally, how do we place a very long building in this context? So we really took a lot of cues from the existing fabric of the neighborhood on Chelsea Street, understanding the proportions, the scale, and what do those buildings mean to their street and their streetscape and the public realm around those. So those are really some influential factors up front, and we wanted to make sure that people understood this was a large building, but how can we use those neighborhood keys to set the project moving forward. We looked a lot at the architecture there, obviously the library in the lower left, and we really decided early on, instead of creating an architecture of a boxy nature with a penthouse on top for mechanical, we thought about the forms of the roof early on, and the mechanical elements are in the forms of those roofs. So it's a slightly different take on a more traditional sort of Victorian type architecture, but in a larger scale. And then I think the other piece to really anchor this was the public realm. This was a huge discussion throughout the public process. It really, the results are an amazing public space along our sidewalk. We've extended the sidewalks. We have 18-foot sidewalks at the corner of Brooks that will be anchored by a transit micro hub with a blue bike station. And then we also have wider sidewalks as you move up Brooks toward Chelsea Street. So it's really feeling like a place that pedestrians will be welcome, and it is space for them. And then along the edge, as we move up Bremen Street, we worked hard to program the building on the ground floor with a great retail space on the corner, looking for hopefully a local market, 3,200 square feet, that'll anchor that corner moment. And then the residential lobby occurs in the sort of little white square there. But then an interesting programmatic move of creating a maker space or an artist workspace on the ground floor that will serve to activate even farther up Bremen Street and really anchor the building in what we're hoping is an amazing program. Some elevations that aren't reading so well, but we'll see them better in the renderings, but it's this notion of creating anchoring moments in the architecture. So brick and masonry anchor the ends and then define the entry sequences, filled in with a thermally modified wood of some sort that will bring human scale and touch to the middle elements. A little hard to see in a one-line drawing. Some elevations and sections, as Joe mentioned. So 4 stories on the corners as it knits back into the neighborhood and then steps up with the formed roofs to 5 stories in the middle of the block. some renderings here. So this is a view coming off of the airport T station with the Brooks Corner anchored here with this masonry element and the retail piece. And then as you can see, the undulating roofs as you move down the park, creating an edge. Zooming in a little bit closer, I think you can really understand what we were trying to have happen on the streetscape. So these are these very deep sidewalks that will be anchored by retail and interior spaces that are very much about the pedestrian experience. We heard a lot about the concern of traffic moving down Bremen Street. It's a very wide crossing. Cars are going fast. So a lot of these moves were really in response to concerns of the neighborhood, as well as the development team wanting to make sure that the community at large can embrace the project and really understand what it's doing for their neighborhood. I think a great win for the neighborhood and the urban space around this building. Another view sort of up at the farthest end, and you can see we're also stepping back down into the more traditional size and scale of 3 stories, 3.5 story buildings with our masonry end cap. And then just another view of that space at the sidewalk. That's where we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes our presentation.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the board?
You've taken a very creative and innovative approach to the design here, and I'm curious about a couple of things. What inspired or incentivized you to create artist spaces? If I understand correctly, of the 21 affordable units, 13 of those would be dedicated for artists, and then, again, if I'm understanding this correctly, another 2,100 square feet would be set aside for what looked like studio space, workspace, maker space.
Makerspace, right.
And then on top of that, there's a gallery space? Or is that
within that space?
Within that space? So could you just elaborate on that?
Yeah, thank you for your question. So really it came from the community. We were challenged to find creative uses for our first floor to really activate the street along Bremen and to give justice to the park across the street. And we always say that we try to study the site as great as we can, but the community will know it better than us. And this idea actually came from the community. We spoke with multiple people who really reinforced the need for artist space in the neighborhood. In particular, Brandon Gotti, who runs a woodworking shop in East Boston, was an instrumental resource for us to say that he gets phone calls once a week for people looking for space like this. And so it really seemed to work well because that was the voice of the community telling us what they thought was a real need in their neighborhood, in their community, and also allowing us to activate Bremen Street so that it didn't have sort of a row of parking stalls. We wanted to make sure that that park was activated for 20, 40, 50 years in the future.
And then the park itself, I wonder, is that part of the city's or the neighborhood's resilience plan vis-a-vis climate change and the like? And could you just talk about how the property and the way it's designed interacts with the city's resilience plan?
Sure. So the park is I believe owned and run by Massport, and so it's not a city park.
Yep.
And it's yeah, I think a portion at the very end is part of the city. But to be honest, I don't know the nature of how it impacts the resilience plan of the cities because I believe because it's Massport Park. You guys know?
I don't know how the park impacts it, but we are taking that under consideration on our ground floor. So obviously the retail space needs to be at grade, so it's accessible, but we are raising all of our systems and services up above the floodplain. We are sort of partially in the edge of the floodplain, but we're just going ahead and taking the sort of precautions now in construction to get those services up off the ground. And there's no residential on the ground floor, so we think it's the right move in terms of still activating the street, but being a little bit more forward-thinking about that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Great. I just had a quick question. So the retail space that you have there, it says here for a small grocery store or cafe. Has that been secured? And I guess what was your process to kind of determine
Sure.
What goes into that
Sure.
space?
So again, from neighborhood feedback, we're looking for either a local retailer, a grocer, or a daycare, one of those three uses. We're working with the city closely to be able to identify that use and bring them into the property. So it's very early, obviously, for us. We haven't reached out yet, but we have had conversations with the city, and they've been willing to help us to find a tenant for that space. The space was actually 1,200 square feet at the beginning, and based on feedback from the community and feedback from the city, they challenged us to make the space bigger. To be honest, we were a little hesitant at first, wanted to make sure that that space was activated and successful, but we accepted the challenge to move it from 1,200 feet to 3,200 square feet, which we think really provides a destination for that area. It's a high traffic area going to the airport T stop and coming into East Boston. So we're proud of that space, and I think it's going to do really well there for the neighborhood.
Yeah, and definitely, encourage you. There's lots of really great, local businesses in the East Boston area as well. I know that are looking for space and will need, space like this and amenities. So
Yeah, that's great. That's exactly what we're looking for there too.
Okay, great. Any more questions for the board? Okay, hearing none, a motion is in order. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Slide past you.
Item number 22 has been removed. Item number 23, request authorization to issue a scoping determination waiving further review pursuant to Article 80, Section 80B-5.3D of the zoning code for the construction of an additional 77 hotel rooms to the existing 112-room Onyx Hotel with the ground floor retail restaurant space and rooftop amenities located at 155 Portland Street, and to take all related actions. Michael.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam Secretary, and Director Golden. The project before you is the 155 Portland Street Onyx Hotel expansion project. It is an Article 80B large project that is zoning compliant. The proponent is proposing to construct the expansion on the current parking lot, which consists of 5,478 square feet of land. Most of the parking is currently valet, so the lot is not heavily used. The proposal will add approximately 40,725 square feet, providing an additional 77 hotel rooms to the existing 112 rooms for a total of 189 and will be 9 stories in height, made up of a total of 91,000 square feet of gross floor area. It will also include ground floor flexible/restaurant space and a rooftop deck/amenity space. The proponent filed their LOI on September 25th, 2019, and then filed their EP&F on November 18th of 2019. 2 IAG meetings were held and 1 public meeting. All were lightly attended, and those who were present showed their support for the project. Due to the holiday season, the comment period was extended and closed on January 31st, 2020. The project will add 33 permanent jobs and 110 construction jobs, and the total development cost will be $25 million. I will now turn it over to the development team to go over their proposal and mitigation in more detail, after which we would be happy to take any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board, Director Golden, Secretary Polhamus. My name is Andrew Capillotti, a principal with Boylston Properties and the current owner of the existing Onyx Hotel. As Mike said, we're planning on expanding the hotel and adding 77 new rooms in the existing parking lot that's just next door to the hotel. That does a couple of things for Portland Street. It allows us to close a couple of curb cuts that exist now for a loading dock and access to that parking lot, improving the overall streetscape. We're able to add an additional 33 new full-time jobs to the hotel in support of these 77 new rooms and 110 construction jobs. And then as far as connectivity is concerned, we're adding 8 additional bike parking spots, a locker room and showers for our employees, and 6 additional bike parking spots for our guests. Finally, before I turn it over to Harry Wheeler with Group 1 Partners, I would like to thank the BPDA planning staff, Councilor Flynn's office, the IAG, and Mike Sinatra for helping us with the process.
Thank you, Andrew. Good evening. Again, Harry Wheeler with Group 1. We are the architects for the project, and we'll go through a brief presentation to give everybody an understanding of the proposed development. Zoom in a little closer. Located on Portland Street, 155 Portland Street is the existing Onyx Hotel, and the site in question is outlined here, which is the current parking garage, former Boston Sand and Gravel building, which extends from Portland Street through Block to Friend Street. Again, tough little to see here, but the building was torn down several years ago and the parking garage was put in. Right now there's kind of a missing tooth along Portland Street, which we're looking to infill and again, enhance and expand kind of the public realm along Portland Street. Kind of looking down towards Friend Street, again, there's the missing tooth along Friend Street. There's a project being constructed now, a hostel project that's under construction, which we will be abutting, and there's a small little one-story retail box which is remaining here, which we will be set back and back of. But again, we will have our good street frontage on Friend Street, and again, the ability to expand and enhance that public realm. You can see here a little bit more of where we touch Portland Street and where we touch Friend Street and the existing hotel that's here today. Just a brief overview of the program. What we're looking to do is renovate and enhance the existing project of the lobby, which gives more street frontage to the Portland Street. With the addition and the through block to Friend, we will be enlivening all of Portland Street and taking an existing loading dock here and moving it to the rear on Friend Street. We'll also have some activation of man doors, employee entrances, and so forth. This allows us to provide a new retail tenant along Portland Street, which expands the lobby and public use of the hotel about another 35 feet, and again, really creates an opening and entrance, really uninhibited with the loading dock. So this is one big open commercial use. As Andrew mentioned, we are removing 2 loading docks, or 2 curb cuts on Portland Street. One here, which is the entrance to the existing parking lot, and a second one here, which is into the existing loading dock for the hotel. We are utilizing an existing curb cut on Friend Street, which will activate our new loading dock. Moving up the 9-story addition, the hotel will have 11 rooms a floor, 7 floors for 77 new guest rooms, which will have views out to Portland Street, Friend Street, and we're also creating an internal light well, as this is such a deep block, for rooms to be built and have light and air access mid-building. At the top floor of the expansion, we will be providing a new exterior roof deck. We'll have just about 2,000 square feet of enclosed space with about a 1,200 square foot open air addition, which will have great views towards East Boston and towards the north. A little bit here, how we'll be connecting through an existing passageway. Part of the architectural benefits too, as well, to the street, is we are looking at removing the bottom 2 stories of the base of the existing building of the Onyx and tying a whole new 2-story block with the single expression. Looking for the infill piece, where we'll be taking some cues from the existing architecture along Portland Street, a lot of verticality and protruding elements, which will be visible here in the addition, and then again the 2-story full renovation with the retail. Again, looking for an enhanced awning component to give some more vitality and enhancement to the roof deck, to the hotel entrance, with the restaurant or retail having its own private entrance as well as its own signage component. The views on Friend Street with the new loading dock, how our building will come down, meet the ground here, providing some enhancements of pedestrian and employee entrances. The existing lot here, which is the proposed new hostel being constructed, and where we set back behind the little 1-story retail component here. Wrapping the architecture and materials along Portland Street, wrapping around through the mid-block and then all the way through to Friend Street. A couple views here. And again, this is more of an aerial looking how the architecture will tie into the existing building and also create the ability for the roof deck on the 9th floor. With that, I can turn it back over to Andrew to talk a little bit about the community benefits.
Sure. As you can see, we've been able to identify 4 very important partners in 3 very important partners in the neighborhood: the West End Museum, Break Time Cafe, which is a new venture started by a couple of young kids to provide some job training for homeless at-risk youth. A contribution to Community Work Services, which is also our neighbor across the street, and then a contribution down to the Parcel 2 Park down on Washington Street, North Washington. That ends our proposal. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions from the board?
I have a question.
Oh, sorry.
That's right. I was curious, are you digging it down at all?
No, the existing hotel has a basement.
It
We're
does.
just going to put the addition slab on grade.
You driving piles, or are you gonna do caissons? How are you,
We haven't got that far yet. It'll probably be some pile and grade beam
yeah,
situation.
I'm looking at the site now on Google Earth, and I'm wondering how you're gonna do that. That's okay, thanks.
So, you're welcome.
The one-story retail building next door
Yes.
wasn't available?
I know.
It's a great question. We
Something
actually
couldn't have been worked out with them?
we actually looked at it, had Harry study it sort of early on. We had approached the owner, who had no interest in selling, and interestingly enough, because of how the hotel rooms lay out, it didn't add any additional square footage to our building. We would have ended up with a bigger light well in the middle to potentially pull those rooms forward. So it's a funny little site, and we sort of were, I think, creatively got to the 77 rooms on the 8 floors. But it was our first thought.
Well, it was certainly mine. I guess the one thing I would ask is that, you've shown us some renderings of, the building at height and all of that. But we all know that Portland Street is so small that basically no one will ever see that in its glory. And I would encourage you to do whatever you can to really activate the ground floor and the floor above it, because obviously business is good. It's a really fine addition to the neighborhood, and I, for one, think it should be more visible in terms of what it is.
Oh, well, I think by being able to expand, as Harry pointed out, by being able to expand the lobby and give that restaurant component its own sort of street front entrance, we think that goes a long way. But you're right, the only spot that you really get a good view of that mid-block building is as you're turning off of Valenti Way onto Portland Street, and there it is. So.
Okay, great.
That's why it should be 20 or 30 stories, so Beacon Hill can see it.
Yeah, why didn't you go 20 or 30 stories?
So.
40.
I mean, it's not as though there isn't height in the neighborhood.
It's interesting. At it's an existing 112 keys, and by adding the 77, that gets us to about 189, which for a limited service hotel sort of puts it right in the sweet spot for room count. So.
Makes sense. Okay, any additional questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion is in order. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The
Thank
ayes
you.
have it. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay. Item number 24, request authorization to enter into an affordable rental housing agreement and restriction for 2 IDP rental units located at 602 Canterbury Street. Lizzie.
Good evening, Chairwoman Rojas, Director Golden, Madam Secretary, and members of the board. My name is Lizzie Torres. I am the Housing Policy Assistant and happy to come before you today with 602 Canterbury Street in Roslindale. This is a 14-unit rental project. It has received Zoning Board of Approval on September 20th, 2019, and does not require Article 80 approval. However, it will include 2 income-restricted units under the Inclusionary Development Policy. Your vote today is to approve the execution of an affordable rental housing agreement and restriction.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion is in order. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion
Thank you.
passes. Thank you. And do we keep going, take a
Skip the hearing, keep
We're
going.
skipping the hearing.
So
and-
go to item number 26.
Okay, we're skipping the hearing. We're going to go to item number 26, Administration and Finance. Request authorization to expend $105,995 to Project Place for the beautification of Massachusetts Avenue and Melnia Cass Boulevard with the BioSquare 2 Physical and Community Improvement Fund. and to enter into a grant agreement. Phil.
Good afternoon. As you mentioned, we're asking for authorization to enter into a grant agreement with Project Place for the cleanup of Mass Ave at Million Cass Boulevard.
Okay, great. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and throw in personnel. Jamie.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Director Golden, Jamie Lamarco, oversee talent acquisition. A few items for your consideration on the BRA agenda. One appointment with the details in the board memo, William Epperson, Deputy Director for Capital Construction in the Real Estate Department. And there are 2 out-of-state travel requests with the details listed in the board memo. Trin Nguyen, Director of Office of the Workforce Development, and Lauren Shirtliff, Acting Director of Planning, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Now we're going to take.
Pay the bills.
We're going to pay the bills, is what we're going to do. A motion to pay the bills.
I move we pay out those bills.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Let's pay them bills. Okay, so do we want to do director's update, or do we want to take a break?
With your permission, Madam Chair, I'll defer the director's update until after the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. So we are going to take a brief recess because the public hearing cannot start till 5:40. So quick break and see you soon. Going to resume the meeting. So we are going to move on to the the public hearing portion of our agenda. It's item number 25. This is a public hearing before the Boston Redevelopment Authority doing business as a Boston Planning and Development Agency, being held in conformance with Article 80 of the Boston Zoning Code to consider the 288 through 298 Tremont Street project located on parcel P12C in the South Cove Urban Renewal Area and Midtown Cultural District as a development impact project. This hearing was duly advertised on January 30th, 2020 in the Boston Herald. In a BPDA hearing on the proposed petition by the agency, staff members will first present their case and are subject to questioning by members of the agency. Thereafter, others who wish to speak in favor of the proposed petition are afforded an opportunity to do so under the same rules of questioning. Following that, those who wish to speak in opposition may do so, again under the same rules of questioning. Finally, the proponents are allowed a period of 5 to 10 minutes for rebuttal if they so desire. In an effort to accommodate all who would like to speak about this proposal, each person will be given up to 2 minutes to comment. BPDA staff will indicate when 30 seconds remain, and at that time, please kindly conclude your remarks so that the hearing may continue and others may be heard. Ed will now begin the presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam Secretary, and Director Golden. As mentioned, the project before you is the 288 through 298 Tremont Street project, also referred to as parcel P12C, and it is located in the Midtown Cultural District and within the South Cove Urban Renewal Area. The site is part of the broader Chinatown neighborhood. The proposed mixed-use development includes a 100% income-restricted residential housing component with up to 168 affordable home ownership and rental housing units, a hotel component with up to 200 rooms, a garage component with up to 340 off-street vehicle parking spaces, a ground floor retail space of approximately 2,500 square feet, and an 8,000 square foot core and shell community space, which may be expanded to at least 14,000 square feet, that the BPDA anticipates will be used as a Chinatown branch of the Boston Public Library. The proposed project also includes a publicly accessible outdoor courtyard space in the center of the site, and this facilitates a 24/7 unobstructed pedestrian path, helping to link Tremont and Washington streets. The project notification form was filed on October 15th, 2019, with a comment period conclusion of November 15th, 2019. The community process was robust and productive. 3 IAG meetings and 1 public meeting were held. I must say that the IAG is very supportive of this project and the many community benefits it brings to Chinatown in terms of not just affordable housing, but programmable open space, as well as community space that we all anticipate will be a new and improved home for the Boston Public Library in the neighborhood. At this time, I will turn it over to Angie Liu, the Executive Director of the Asian Community Development Corporation, and she will begin the presentation. After that, we'll be happy to take any questions or comments you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. You need to go to the first meeting. Yeah, for the recording. Yeah.
Are you controlling the slides?
Good afternoon. My name is Angie Liu. I am the Executive Director of the Asian Community Development Corporation, Asian CDC for short. Thank you, Director Golden, and members of the BPDA board for this opportunity to present in hopes for Article 80 approval for this project. I am here speaking on behalf of the proponent team, of which Asian CDC, a 30-plus-year-old nonprofit based in Chinatown, is a part of. And also just want to briefly introduce the other 3 members of our team. There's MP Boston, represented by Jill Larkin. There is Corcoran Jennison, represented by Mike Corcoran. And last but not least, Tough Share Services, represented by Jim Foley. So together, the 4 the four of us make up the proponent team. Just want to very quickly give a little bit of history and context of the site. Parcel 12C is a BPDA-owned site at the edge of Chinatown that has long been prioritized by Chinatown in hopes of creating affordable housing on this site. So back in 2015, we led other community groups as well as residents in a visioning process, which resulted in a report that summarized the overwhelming desire of the community for affordable housing as well as new community gathering spaces on the site to help address the housing shortage in Chinatown. And so fast forward, the BPDA published an RFP that largely followed the priorities set out in that visioning process. And as a result, we came together with MP Boston, as well as the two abutters, Tufts and Cork and Jennison, to come together with this proposal in front of you. So very quickly, I want to highlight some of the major benefits, as Eddie had mentioned previously. This is going to create approximately 168 affordable units with both rentals and homeownership opportunities, and I'll go into that a little bit later. About 59 retail and hospitality jobs, and that's also going to put this current parking lot back into the tax base, create new tax revenue for the city, in addition to new ground lease payments back to the BPDA. In terms of the public realm and community spaces, we expect to create a permanent home for the Chinatown Library within this building, as well as a new pedestrian throughway connecting from Washington to Tremont Street, and hopefully what will be a very active courtyard. I just want to highlight the affordability mix of this project. Of the 168 units, this is all financed with a mixture of the IDP requirements from MP Boston's Winthrop Garage project, as well as other city and state funding that we are sourcing. And so you'll see that there is a good mix of ownership and rental units. And we have worked very, very hard over the last couple months with the community to really try to not only increase the number of rentals, but also try to get as many lower income units in there, because that's what we heard loud and clear from the community. And now I'm going to hand it over to Aaron Hodges from Stantec, who is our architecture design firm, to go into the actual program.
Director Golden, members of the board, my name is Erin Hodges. I'm here with Stantec, my team from Stantec, as well as Alicia Mason from Dream Collaborative, who is our minority designer for the residential portion of the project, Shauna Gillis-Smith, our landscape architect, and Harry Wheeler, our hotel architect. The site of this project is located in a true urban transit-oriented location, and it's 2 blocks away from Boston Common and flanked on one side by Tremont Street and very close to Washington Street on the other side. As Ed and Angie mentioned, one of the key design goals of this project is to create a pedestrian connection from the Bay Village neighborhood through Elliott Norton Park, through our site back to the Chinatown neighborhood that's further in that direction. The existing condition of the site is a surface parking lot. On the left side of this parking lot is the existing Tufts Garage, which serviced the medical center in this neighborhood. On the right side is the existing DoubleTree Hotel, which is operated by our development proponent, Cork and Jennison. And our program for this building includes 168 100% affordable housing unit that is in the color yellow, In the middle, we have 168 hotel rooms. And at the grade, at the bottom over here is street activation programs such as lobby spaces, cafe, and entrance to the new home to the BPL, as well as a pedestrian walkthrough that's right in the middle that will take you through the site. And tucked all the way in the back is the new garage addition, up to 340 cars. The plates of the garage is going to be leveled with the existing garage right next to it so that we can use the existing infrastructure and not adding additional curb cut onto Tremont Street. While designing this project, we drew the inspiration from one of the most ancient form of documenting text, which is the bamboo slip. And this is used 2,000 years ago in China before paper was even invented. So what we were trying to design on the facade is to take cue from the verticality of the bamboo slip, take cue also from the tonality of the warm colors coming from the bamboo, which echoes the existing neighborhood context of masonry, brick, and stone. But if you look at the craft of the bamboo slip, what we're trying to do also on this majority precast facade is to adding enough coursing, enough detail to echo this crafts that goes into the bamboo slip. And if you squint just hard enough, the building, the windows almost looks like the characters, the Chinese characters that are on the bamboo slip. This is a ground floor plan of the building from left to right. We have Tremont Street over here. The project is going to include a new pedestrian crossing from Elliott Norton Park. Along Tremont Street, mentioned before, we have really active street frontage use. The BPL lobby will be right over here. Extending further back is their main space. The hotel lobby will be right over here. This is the opening on the ground floor that will take the pedestrians all the way through the site, flanked on one side by the BPL glass, and on the other side are the courtyard, heavily greenery, very flexible programming. And then at the end, this is a existing surface lot. The day one condition, we're taking the pedestrians out to this point, and there will be designated striping cutting through the surface lot that takes pedestrians to Washington Street. Just to go back to Tremont Street, the rest of the active use includes a cafe that will be operated by the hotel and the residential entrance right over here. This is their main lobby. Loading will be primarily off of the drop-off zone on Tremont Street. In the very occasion service loading for hotel, we anticipate removable bollards right over here, so the trucks can come in here at very infrequent times during the day and not to disrupt any of the pedestrian activity that's along this axis. So this is the day one condition. And we're working with Corcoran Jennison on this plot for future condition. This is likely to be a future residential building, and we're committed to having an opening under the building here to have this be continued in the finished product to take someone directly from Tremont all the way to Washington. This is a view of the courtyard space looking down. The design of the courtyard is to be 100% accessible, so the entire surface is flat with indistinguishable slope, actually. And we try to keep the courtyard very open so there's clear visual connectivity from all sides of the edges for safety reasons. Another view looking into the courtyard was the BPL facade on the left side. And we envisioned this space to be programmable for use by the public and by BPL and by the residents. Another couple of views of the facade. This is the view from Tremont Street looking north to the Common, a very slender edge. And this is another view looking directly above the courtyard on the eastern facing facade of the project. And with that, we're open for questions from the board.
Okay, we want to, it's a public hearing. We'll wait till, reserve our questions till after the public testimony. So if there was anyone who would like to speak in favor of this project, please come to the podium.
Chair, members of the board, Director Golden, Madam Secretary, Mina Perez, representing the Carpenters Union. On behalf of hundreds of union carpenters that live and work throughout the city of Boston, I want to go on record support of this project.
Thank you.
Dear zoning board, my name is Susan Hahn. I'm a junior in Josiah Quincy Upper School, and I'm here to support the development. The Chinatown neighborhood is an important place to me because this is the community where I live and go to school. As a resident, I've seen many change from the high rise coming in and the lower income resident in Chinatown getting displaced and moved to other neighborhoods. I'm here to advocate for more affordable housing in Chinatown in a place of the luxury apartments coming into Chinatown. Chinatown is also an area where many young people like myself come to play, work, and study. I'm here today to call your attention about the need for a library in Chinatown. It has taken this long for everyone in the community to ask for a library. As a resident in Chinatown and a high school student that goes to the library with my friends to study, the closest library would be the Copley branch. However, this location is far away from where I live and where I study. It becomes very inconvenient for students whose schools are in Chinatown, who after-school programs are also in Chinatown. In addition, Chinatown is the only neighborhood that doesn't have a library. This development gives me an opportunity to have a library, and thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Hello， 大家好，我呢係叫鄧劍梅，居住唐街已經15年啦。我好喜歡呢個社區，聽聞呢響天滿街呢，即係要起屋。咁我希望咧起多啲呢個可負擔房屋同埋呢個圖書館，希望呢個即係早啲實現，等我哋能夠住得比較好啲個屋咯。
Hi, my name is Jamie Dan. I have been living in Boston's Chinatown for 15 years, and I love the community. I heard that the new property to be built on the empty site on Tremont Street. It sounds really wonderful because it has many good things for our neighborhood. We really need affordable housing, a bigger and better library. I hope this happens soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam Secretary, Director Golden, Gary Walker, Electrical Workers like Local 113, I'd like to speak in strong support also. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director Golden, members of the board, Tom Ward, Executive Board Member, Local 7 of the Iron Workers. I rise in favor of this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Vivian Wu Wong, and on behalf of the Friends of the Chinatown Library, I am here to express our strong support for the proposed development for Parcel 12C. The proposal for this parcel creates several public benefits that Chinatown would be greatly impacted by. Part of the proposal designates space for a library. We are in strong support of using this community space as the permanent Chinatown branch library. Chinatown has been without a permanent branch for over 60 years, and while there is a temporary branch, it is only 1,500 square feet. From the time of its opening, the Chinatown BPL exceeded its circulation projections. It is a beacon for Chinese seniors who want to read the Chinese language newspaper, working class immigrants wanting to learn computer skills, mothers and their children who come for story time, students from nearby universities who want a quiet place to study, and general community members looking for jobs who need access to the computers. Libraries are an essential part of a vibrant neighborhood and help bring disparate segments of the neighborhood together. This proposal also provides much-needed affordable housing for the Chinatown community, specifically for affordable rental units and affordable home ownership units. This proposal addresses community needs and implements the long-term goals of the Chinatown Master Plan. Building affordable housing in Chinatown is critical to helping stabilize the neighborhood and ensure its longevity as a center for working-class immigrants. Everyday Chinatown struggles with the pressure of displacement, poor air quality, and unending traffic and congestion. Residents throughout the neighborhood are worried about losing Chinatown, its sense of identity, and the tight-knit fabric of social life. As a cultural hub, Chinatown has many assets for the greater community, for the local and regional Chinese and Asian American communities. We believe that the development here with these public benefits will help anchor the community and maintain Chinatown as a strong neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Zhang Shen, and I'm speaking here as a resident and an active community participant to offer my whole support for the proposed development at parcel P12C. The development is a large step forward towards reducing the already decade-long wait time for affordable housing and would serve to alleviate concerns for over 160 families who are worrying about rising rents and the threat of gentrification. The ability to possibly add a public library is also greatly appreciated, as the inability to access books and library services is a noticeable blemish on Chinatown, the only neighborhood to lack a permanent branch of the Boston Public Libraries. And now that I got this down, I can say something a little bit more anecdotal. So I live in a low-income household, and ever since I was young, I've been fortunate enough to live in affordable housing. My family applied for the lottery in 2 different affordable housing units in Chinatown, the Oak Street Terrace and also the Metropolitan, where I'm residing now. And due to this reduced rents, it granted my family the freedom to be a one-income household, and this allowed my mom to stay at home and take better care of the children of my 3 brothers. And ever since I was young, my parents would take me to the library. And as I went to the library in Copley, as there was no other alternative, I grew to gain an amazing love of reading, and I just devoured everything in there. And every weekend we would go, just read books, and I would always borrow them. And as soon as I started getting older, my mom got less and less time, and I would have to resort to just reading the books at home over and over again. I can't tell you how many times I've read the books at home. It's probably been dozens. But as I grew older, I found that I had less and less time to make the trip to the Copley Library. And sure enough, I ended up reading less and less. And I think that this library, this proposed development, it offers a great chance to bring a branch of the Boston Public Library to Chinatown and offer children everywhere in Chinatown a place to read. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, members of the board. Good afternoon. My name is Tian, and I'm currently a senior at the John D. O'Brien. Unlike most of my friends, I am an East Boston resident, but Chinatown has a special place for me because it's the place that's closest to my culture and my food. However, Chinatown has an arising problem of gentrification, but also new developments coming in leading to residents moving away. As residents are moving away, Chinatown is also losing part of its culture because residents are the one who makes the food for you. Therefore, I really support this development of the parcel P12C in Boston Chinatown because giving additional units of affordable housing is necessary for residents to come back and a place for residents to live. In addition, I also support the library because as a student, I really want to study. And if there's no place for me to study except for my house, which has my bed, then I don't know how I will achieve in the future. But thank you so much.
Great, thank you for coming.
Good evening, Director Golden, Chairwoman Rojas, esteemed board members. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Corey J. Allen, lifelong Mattapan resident. I was last before you to advocate for Winthrop Center's approval before you. I've been at Suffolk 2 years and a week, a job that Millennium Partners recommended me for. Since working at Winthrop Center, I've been able to get individuals from building pathways onto the job site and have helped numerous students, former students, gain entry into the trade union. I used to be an English teacher at Tech Boston Academy. Suffolk and Millennium are partnering on this project before you today, Parcel 12C. I am here to respectfully ask for your affirmative vote for this project. The affordable housing aspect speaks for itself, but the robust workforce development partnerships that we afford with our union brothers and sisters, as well as pre-apprenticeship programs, has been very impactful. The son of my favorite elementary school lunch mother at the Chittick School in Mattapan saw me on the Winthrop Center job site and asked me why I was out there. I told him, getting good folks like you to work out here. Please tell your mom I said hello. With your approval, this type of delivery will be amplified on Parcel 12C project. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, Corey J. Allen.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Good evening, Zoning Board. My name is Olivia Moy, and I'm a junior at Boston Latin School. Although I am not a Chinatown resident, I go there so often that it feels like a second home. I've heard about the plans to develop the piece of land on Tremont Street and believe the community will greatly benefit from them. I'm especially eager to see more affordable housing as well as a new library. Good housing is a basic human right. The need for affordable housing in Chinatown is immense, and the long-lasting impact it has on families is undeniable. Additionally, Chinatown is the only neighborhood in Boston without a library. After the demolition of the original library in 1955 for the construction of the highway, it took more than 60 years for the neighborhood to get a temporary one. Though a step in the right direction, what Chinatown really needs is a bigger permanent library for the many students and families in the community. This is why I support the plan. This development will greatly benefit the Chinatown community. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Zoning Board. My name is Mary Wong. I have been a resident of Boston Chinatown for many years now. The new building that will be built will be a great addition to the community because affordable housing and a bigger and better library is needed. A bigger hotel will also bring new jobs too. I hope this happens soon. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you for coming.
Good evening. I am Glorianne, a first-generation Asian American in Chinatown. My mom immigrated from Asia, and my mother, sister, and I live in an affordable housing unit in Chinatown. We're one of the lucky ones who won the lottery. My mom's coworkers and friends have been complaining about the lack of affordable housing units for families like mine. I am here to offer my support for the development of Parcel P12C in Boston. Speaking as a resident of the community, I am particularly invested in how the new affordable housing units will impact the community. I believe that there is a lot of potential in the area, and I am excited for this project's actions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Karen LaFrazier. I'm the president and CEO of St. Francis House, and we're located just on the skirts of Chinatown. And I have to say that I don't think there's probably any other neighborhood in all of Boston that needs affordable housing as desperately as Chinatown does. We see women coming into St. Francis House, which is predominantly to serve people who are homeless, and I see every day women coming in looking for clothing and food. And if the ability to be able to have an affordable home in your own neighborhood will create such stability for a neighborhood that's been ravished by too much luxury housing. The ability to have a library in your own neighborhood. We've heard from these students just how critically important that is. As a mother, I know exactly how important that is. So from the affordable housing to the jobs that it will create to the library, and St. Francis House could not be more supportive of this project. And I think that being led by ACDC and the other partners there, it's a great development team. So thank you.
Great. Thank you for coming.
Good evening, Honorable Board and Mr. Director. My name is George Camo, and I'm representing the Downtown Boston Business Improvement District Corporation to amplify a letter that we sent in November in support of this project. We stand again tonight in support of this project. As members of the Impact Advisory Group for the Winthrop Center development, we're pleased to continue our support for this proposal and the promise of fulfilling affordable housing requirements for this project. More importantly, we applaud this work that this proposal represents, which is a satisfying culmination for our organization and our community for an engagement that was undertaken by Millennium Partners and the additional partners that have been brought to bear on this project. So we give our unequivocal support with respect to this. Speaking as a private citizen of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and a former Commissioner of Public Libraries here in the Commonwealth after 14 years, I can tell you that there's no better work that this agency, that this city could do than provide an enhanced public library for the Chinatown neighborhood. The pillars of this project rely on the freedom of housing and the freedom of information, both of which are fulfilled incredibly well in this project. So just aside from my official position with the Downtown Boston bid, as a member of the Commonwealth, as a citizen, I really applaud this work and hope you will support this project.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Wendy, a junior at Boston Latin Academy, and I'm here to support the proposal of the development. Born and raised in Chinatown, I've seen the development of the changes throughout the last decade, but I've seen the high-rises taking over, mom and pop shops losing their businesses, residents being displaced because of rising land prices from the cultural enclave that many call their home or second home. That being said, Chinatown is really in need of more affordable housing, public space, and green space to combat the air pollution. The number of families and kids in Chinatown has significantly decreased. It was a pleasure for me to be able to live, work, and play in Chinatown, and that was due to the availability of affordable housing. But not only is housing a problem, but the play aspect of community is gradually dissipating. I especially ask for this neighborhood to finally have a permanent library and more open green space to activate the play aspect in this community again. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for coming.
Good evening, board members. My name is Mohammed Warsame. Actually, I lived and worked in Boston since 1982. I support this project. Actually, I'm a member of the Islamic Center in Boston, and also I mentor with Bill Moran Associates, which we help young minority kids to put them apprentice, with the help of Millennium, put them apprentice programs, electricians, plumbers, pipe fitters. I lived, actually, I'm one of the people who took advantage of this medium income housing. I lived and raised 6 kids in Oak Terrace apartment until I bought my own place with the help of the Millennium, because they give actually jobs, a lot of immigrants, a lot of minority kids. I mean, what I'll tell you is right now we must have over 800 minority immigrants who actually go to school while they're learning English, and also work at different jobs. Also, a lot of mid-management positions. I end up affording to buy my own place, so I'm really support this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Hello, I'm Lydia Lowe. I'm Executive Director of the Chinatown Community Land Trust, and I'm here to support this project. I have several different reasons for supporting the project. The Chinatown Community Land Trust, which works for increased community control of development. I'm also a member of the board of the Friends of the Chinatown Library, having been involved in the 20-year effort to bring library services back to Chinatown. I'm extremely happy about that. And I'm also a co-chair or co-facilitator of the Chinatown Master Plan Committee. So I think everybody's already spoken to the importance of the 100%, 168 units of affordable housing, the importance of the library. I also want to emphasize the need for this beautiful open space. The jobs have been spoken to, but even the parking. I never thought I would be advocating for parking in Chinatown, but we believe that the consolidation of more parking spaces for tough shared services on Parcel 12C will allow us to open up opportunities for developing Parcel R1, which the community has looked to for many years as a potential residential development space. I guess the only other thing I wanted to add is that I think that a lot of our members of our organization participated in the visioning process for this parcel, and people in the community have participated for many decades in master planning, and this project shows people that yes, community planning does make a difference, and that actually sometimes when you all put your heads together and work together, that you can really realize the plans that we envisioned. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, zoning board. I'm a resident of Parcel 24 South at 88 Hudson Street. In the 2 years since I've been there, I've been able to move my career forward as a hospital researcher, thanks in part to a shorter commute, as well as wide-reaching financial savings in general because of affordable housing. I'm in full support of this development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of this proposal? Please come to the podium. Okay. If there was anyone who would like to speak in opposition of this project, please come to the podium. Okay. I just say it twice. Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition of this project? Please come to the podium. Okay, seeing none, let's go on to the board. Do you have any questions?
I have one question for the architect and then a comment. You said that the open space would be fully accessible. There's a pretty significant grade change between Tremont and Washington. And I wonder if you could detail how you're going to deal with that grade change.
Can you go to the microphone?
Thank you for the question. Shauna Gillis-Smith. I'm the landscape architect working on the project. As it turns out, that given the length that we have to slope, we can slope at less than 2% across the entire plaza, starting on Tremont to the, not even as far as Washington Street, to the abutting property at the, and achieve a fully accessible grade across the whole plaza, which then gives the possibility that we can, let me see if I can, that we in, oh, sorry. Yeah, that in the first day condition that we can exit at this point, and in the future condition that we can continue through at this point. So this whole, it's sloping imperceptibly because it's less than 2%, which means that it's accessible in every direction. So that's the intention.
Great, thank you. Many decades ago, I was part of a team that managed one of the affordable housing developments in Chinatown. And I learned through that experience about the cultural cohesion and resilience of the community that has been living there and sustaining itself in the face of a lot of development encroachment that has certainly exacerbated conditions of gentrification and made it much more difficult for many of the businesses and the community to sustain itself. And if there's any community in Boston that deserves to have its own library, it's this one. And it's long overdue. And we talked briefly among ourselves about what some of the benefits of our downtown development have been and can be, and transferring financial resources to a neighborhood so that it can have new affordable housing and a new library is certainly one of those benefits. And I just have to say this is an absolutely terrific project, and I wish we could see more like this.
Thank you. Any other questions? No, just a comment. Congratulations. I really appreciate all of you who came out today. On a school night to come participate. It is really important, and your voice does matter, and so do your letters and participation. We read them all, and so I do want to thank you for coming and supporting this. And as a Leather District resident of a Leather District, your Chinatown's my neighbor, and being a Latina and kind of not living around a large Latino population, like I grew up, is kind of hard sometimes. But like being near Chinatown that has this great intergenerational, you have people of all ages and this family feel, is something that I really treasure and respect, and I'm thankful for, because it gives me that kind of feeling of home. So I'm excited to read library books with you guys and see the courtyard, because I think it's just going to be amazing. So thank you for your participation, helping to make this a really great project for everyone who put into it. So thank you. All right. So any further questions? Hearing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes. Crystal over us. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank
Good
you
job.
for being here.
I like it. Is that Suffolk's new logo? Yeah, I haven't seen it. Yeah, I haven't seen it in the news. I read all the time.
Thank you.
Have a great second semester. I don't know. Thank you. Very nice to meet you. I love boba. All right. I think that brings us to item number 29, Director's Update.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you to the members. Tonight, you approved almost 1 million new square feet of development, but tonight's most remarkable number concerns the quantity of affordable units. You approved 625 units of housing, but 70% of them, 70% of them are income restricted affordable. That's 433 units out of 625. Since he took office, Mayor Walsh has insisted that the city and BPDA do more with the property they own to deliver more value for the people of Boston, especially when it comes to the creation of affordable housing. So tonight, a Boston Housing Authority site near Brighton Center will see redevelopment of affordable housing for seniors, bringing the number up from 64 units that exist there today in the outdated facility to 148 units going forward. So more than doubling the existing stock at that BHA site. In a BPDA site, as you just heard, a parking lot in downtown on the edge of Chinatown will now yield 168 units of affordable housing. And earlier this evening, we talked about a Department of Neighborhood Development site, a DND site that was RFP'd for development. A developer was selected, and there will be 30 units of low-income senior affordable housing on that Mattapan site. So we're really proud of these numbers. We and our colleagues at the Boston Housing Authority and the Department of Neighborhood Development are proud of these numbers as we work to ensure that the development activity in this city addresses the needs of Bostonians at all economic and all income levels. So thanks very much, and have a good evening.
Thank you. All right. So you already paid the bills. We don't have to do that. I think I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I move we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes. Meeting adjourned.
So do you have the float?